Well, here we are in October. The leaves are turning. It's quite chilly this morning, and I'm in the wood at the bottom of my garden, and I just thought I'd have a look at the very last flowers of this year. And here they are, the cyclamen. They weren't planted by me, they were planted by the previous owner many years ago, as were most of these trees. And they're just about finished now. The cyclamen come up and flower, then they send their little leaves up afterwards, and well, here they are in all their glory. So I'll make my way through, because we've had another MOT. And what do we do after MOTs? We have a walk around of another old car, because, as I've said before, they'll never look as good until this time next year. Well, that's possibly not true of this particular old car, because it tends to be a little bit more pampered than the others, but it's still old. She's 22 years old now, because basically new cars just don't float my boat. There's no input, you just buy the damn things and, I don't know, let them devalue, let them go, get another one. Well, I don't do that. I tend to keep them. I buy them new, and I hang on to them. And I've got one car which is in the process of being worked on, that I've owned since 1972. So that's a long time, isn't it? 72, what's that? 48 years I've owned it. I had it when I was at college years ago. Just a quick look at the sheep, look. Neighbour's sheep all having a sleep. Slightly dull day, as you can see, but at least it's dry. So we'll have a wander around the back end of the wood. Looking over my neighbour's wood opposite. His wood is a proper spinney. It's much bigger than mine. And we'll have a look at the car. And there she is. Just back from our MOT. All okay, with no advisories, you'll be delighted to know. I've been working on this quite a bit over the last year. She's in reasonable condition, but there are issues, as there are with any car that's 15 years old, let alone 20. She's 22, and she's a Bentley Arnage. And this is the one I would choose. It's called a Green Label, and it doesn't have the Rolls-Royce engine, for damn good reasons, because the old L series engine, the V8, which I've worked on quite a bit because I had a car with the L series engine. As I say, they were developed in the 50s and stuck into the shadow, and because they didn't really need to develop their engines, they stuck with this old unit. Up until fairly recently they kept trying to update it to improve it, but there's a limit to what you can do. It's a wet line, or was a wet liner engine, It was 6.3 litre in my old car. Incidentally, that car was my retirement present, given to me because I was always rattling on about the Rolls-Royce equipment I was working on at the time in the aero division. Fuel control units cost as much as a Silver Shadow back in the day. I worked on fuel control units and things for the Rolls-Royce aero division in my early years, and because I was always going on about these damn things and had an interest in old cars, I ended up with this ratty old Silver Shadow, Silver Cloud, not Shadow. I wouldn't touch the Shadow because of the inherent problems that go with them. But anyway, the old L series engine, developed in the 50s, a wet liner, which means automatically that you have head gasket problems because of the cross-sectional area of the gasket. There's nothing you can do with L series engines except stroke them. So what they did, they turned the 6.3 into a 6.75 by lengthening the stroke. You couldn't bore it because it was a wet liner, and they fiddled around with it for year after year after year. It always had problems with head gaskets after quite a few miles, and then they stuck a turbo on it, and of course once you put a turbo on and increase the pressure, they were likely to blow head gaskets at low mileage. And then when they put the old V8 in these with a turbo on it, they really did start blowing heads at about 40,000. That they eventually sorted it for the T series, which was a twin turbo L series engine, but it just needed development. And this car was devised, designed and built in Crewe, and it was the last all British car, because as you know, BMW and VW took over Rolls-Royce and Bentley on the proviso they were built in Britain. Incidentally, that's why they haven't moved the factories. And when they took over this one, they thought, well, this old L series engine there's not much we can do with it. We can't put 4 valves in, we can't really do anything with it. It's an old low revving high torque motor, which most people that bought these cars wanted, because unlike the aero division, the car division did not develop it at the same rate. Now when I was there, the RB211 was being developed, the turbofan technology was coming on stream. We're talking a long time ago, and basically Rolls-Royce cars were looked on by the aero engine developers as a pain in the arse, basically. So the company was split off. So the aero division in 1971 split off Rolls-Royce and let them go their own way. And basically Rolls-Royce, Bentley back then, didn't develop anything. They didn't need to, because the people that were buying them were quite happy with ponderous sort of things, with old slow revving torquey engines that were good for about 12 to 13 miles per gallon. So I worked on the Silver Cloud, but it wasn't easy to drive. It's a bit like tacking a boat to steer. So I decided to get something that was a little bit more aligned to today's roads. So I opted for this one. I made a good profit on the Silver Cloud, and I bought this, which is a really easy car to drive and quite nippy, even though it hasn't got the big 6.75 litre engine. This one's got the 4.4 litre BMW V8 that they fitted in the Range Rovers back then, when BMW owned Range Rover. But what they did with this engine, which was a fairly good unit put into the BMW 7 Series, was send it off to Cosworth. And I'm sure everyone knows Cosworth is the leading developer of engines probably in this country. And they gave them the engine and said do something with it. And so they replaced all the crappy plastic manifolds and things and put proper cast ones on. And they developed the engine and put twin Garrett superchargers on. And it's a mixture, being a Bentley, of grace and pace. They did make one mistake. They took the duplex timing chain out and put a simplex one in to quieten the engine slightly, because they think that was important. They should have left the duplex plain or put a Hyvo in my opinion. That's what I would have done. And the snag is that after 140,000 miles or thereabouts, you can get wear on the timing chain adjuster. It's a slipper, just like any old Honda motorbike. And everyone that's got a Honda or had a Honda will know that you can have problems with timing chain adjusters. And anyway, this one's only done 65,000, so 140,000 is a long way off. And the way to stop it is to change the oil very regularly. I cannot stress that enough with these things. You have to change the fluids. So we'll have a look at the engine. I think I popped the bonnet. There we go. Well, it's running hot, quite warm. The fan's cut in, and there's the engine unit. It's ticking over like a Swiss watch. You can't see the turbos really. You can see the turbo pipe there on the left. There's the V8 and the Cosworth. So she's a Cosworth 4.4 litre V8 with an alusil block, because the early 7 Series used a Nicosil block, and they would fail because of the high sulphur in British petrol at the time. So it's got a really well developed engine. I can't remember the serial number of the design, but I had a close look at it and it's pretty good. 4 valves per cylinder, variable cam timing. It's got everything that you would want to give you efficiency, and this will, on the motorway, at motorway cruising speeds, return you 25. It's twice as good as the Cloud ever was, and it's also quite nippy. Not as nippy as the L series, the 6.75 litre. It's time up to 60, should you want to go down that road, is 1 second less, and it's 30 miles an hour slower. That means that it'll do 0 to 60 in 7 seconds, and it will top out at 150. Now, I'm never ever going to go anywhere near that. I mean, it'll do 100, very easily, and accelerate from 80 to 100 in seconds. But it ain't going to bother me. It's like my Suzuki Hayabusa. It's got the power I would never use. So there she is. She's in really nice condition. I chose one that was owned by a garage proprietor, and before him it was owned by a bookie, I think, or a racehorse person, because it's got odds on the number plate, and I assume that's the odds for horse racing. So yeah, I've done a lot of work. I've been underneath it. It's there's no rust, obviously. I chose one that was well serviced. This one